Springfield Talk 1041. Welcome to the show. My name is Nick Reed. What are we on? Wednesday? Is today Wednesday?
No, I'm
It
very
is Wednesday. Yeah, no,
I'm
it's
very
Wednesday.
confused because you took Monday off.
It is Wednesday, so we're making it halfway through the week. Obviously, a number of area cancellations. Springfield, right? Springfield's out.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I guess it is. Well, yes. That I didn't see that on the official list, but two conversations I had this morning were both based around the fact that Springfield was out. But if you could double check that. That way I'm not making. I know Republic is out. A number of the area schools also. Not so much, maybe perhaps regarding or because of the precipitation that has come down, but what is expected to come. And yeah, it's one of those things. You make that call, and then it turns out to be nothing, and people
Yes, they
complain.
are
Like,
out.
okay, people complain about you, but if it turns out to be bad, then you don't necessarily get a lot of praise. That's just the way it is. That is the way it is, having to be that person that makes that call for a district. Going to play some audio, a number of different bits of audio this morning. Democrats continue to melt down over the transparency that is, for the very first time in many of our lifetimes, really taking the forefront of this administration. They keep revealing things that we did not know about how our money is being spent, how much of our money is being spent. All of these dollars. There's a new excuse that surfaced. Well, it's the first time I heard it. And it's a contradictory excuse. Last night, Sununu was on with Anderson Cooper, and Anderson Cooper began shoveling out this there's no proof that all this money is being spent. So on one hand, we're told that somehow it's horrible and awful that Elon Musk is exposing all of this. Then we're being told how much all those different organizations need that money. And then at the same time, well, there's no proof that it's actually being spent on those things after all. These are people, make no mistake about it at this point, and they've been at this point for some time. They don't really care about anything other than just completely disagreeing with the other side. That's it. What have they offered up since the Americans made a decision last November indicating that Republicans, or at least Trump specifically, was the pathway that the American people wanted to choose, that they said, okay, that's the route we want to go. Generally, when that occurs, the losing side will regroup and say, all right, we have to come up with some solutions that we will argue are a better alternative to the solutions that they've chosen. But instead, they're just griping about the choices that the American people made. And that is what they're griping about, because as the polling shows, 70% of Americans say Trump is doing exactly what we asked him to do. This is why we elected him. He said he was going to do this stuff. So you have these networks and the Democrats, one and the same, that are just out there screaming and yelling at the American people because we're getting what we want. Elon, and of course the gaslighting is full speed ahead. They go on and on about unelected people, Elon Musk being unelected. All right, well, name the elected people who signed the checks for these dollars. I mean, it was our bank account, but every single one of these transactions that Elon Musk has uncovered and revealed to the American people, who was the elected person who signed off on it? The answer is none of those people are elected people. That's the way that it works. One could argue that government shouldn't be that large, but I mean, from the very beginning, there was some degree of hired people, of appointed people that weren't elected that were given responsibilities. Frankly, this is an argument for dumb people or ignorant people who don't think this stuff through. Do we really think that we've lived in a world up until now where only elected officials were the ones that were signing these checks and saying, yep, I'm going to approve this money, I'm going to approve that money? In fact, one of the stories from yesterday was the firing of 4 FEMA employees who are responsible for the $58 million doled out, since this was all supposed to stop, to pay for luxury hotel suites or hotel rooms for people who are in this country illegally. Who are those 4 people? Are they elected individuals? Of course not. They try to portray all of this as something that's happening in the secrecy of the night and the darkness of the night, that, oh, this is going on behind closed doors. The only reason that we know about it is because Elon Musk is the one who's posting it. He is the one telling us about everything that's been discovered. They're in panic mode. Full freak-out panic mode. Another winning story, kicking off the day. Freed American hostage Mark Fogel lands in U.S. after years in Russian captivity. He had been detained in Russia since 2021, landed back in the U.S. on Tuesday. Fogel, a history teacher who was working at an Anglo-American school in Moscow, returned to the U.S. after his release from Russia following talks with the Trump administration. He was serving a 14-year sentence after his arrest in August of 2021 at a Russian airport for possession of drugs, which his family said was medically prescribed marijuana. Fogel was seen in a picture posted by the White House on social media, smiling and raising his fist while wrapped in an American flag as he walked off the plane on U.S. soil. The White House writing on X, Mark Fogel is back, promises made, promises kept. After his arrival in the U.S., Fogel from Pennsylvania met with Trump at the White House, called him a hero for securing his release. Quote, "I want you to know I'm not a hero in this at all. President Trump is a hero," he said after meeting Trump. "These men that came from the diplomatic service are heroes. The senators and representatives that passed legislation in my honor, they got me home. They are heroes. I am in awe of what they all did," Fogel added, saying he feels like the luckiest man on earth right now. Trump's national security advisor, Michael Waltz, had said the U.S. and Russia negotiated an exchange to ensure Fogel's release, although he did not disclose what the U.S. was giving up. Some previous negotiations, of course, have involved releases of Russians by the U.S. or its allies in exchange for a detained American. It'll be interesting to see what sort of exchange took place here, because in the past, what we've seen with the Biden administration and the Obama administration is we would trade like the most dangerous mercenary killer in the world in exchange for a basketball player. Or, oh, you want 5 of the top most dangerous terrorists in the world? We have a Gitmo. That was the Obama administration. Yeah, we'll give you that for somebody who abandoned his fellow troops while in Afghanistan. So they've always been seen as very, very lopsided trades. I suspect that whatever trade was made by Donald Trump here probably was not nearly as lopsided, if at all, just because we know how Trump is when it comes to the art of the deal. And his number one goal is always that we are the ones who come out ahead. And while some people see that as selfish, he sees it as that's what he was hired to do. Not a difficult concept. If you are hired as CEO of a company, your number one priority is not worrying about the profits of the other companies. Your number one priority is the profits of the company that you are serving as CEO. And Trump has that audacious idea, as do many of the people who elected him president, that as the chief executive of the United States of America, that's the country he should be looking out for, not everyone else. Doesn't mean that we can't have friends and allies. And it doesn't mean that we can't help them out at times, particularly if it does help us in the long run. But when it really comes down to it, job number one, the people who hired you. Traffic in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see snow, sleet, and freezing rain throughout the day with a high near 33. Tonight, cloudy with a low around 12. For your Thursday, mostly cloudy through the mid-morning and then gradual clearing with a high near 29. And on Friday, partly sunny with a high near 42.
Springfield's Talk 1041. I am Nick Reed. I didn't grab audio of it. I was kind of scrambling to edit up audio of an interview that I want to play a bit later in the program because I found it very intriguing. It's from that Linda Lee. She's been that long time, big time fundraiser for Democrats. She was on the Obama campaign. She was part of the DNC, and she sat down about an hour and a half, 2 hour long podcast interview about what was going on when because she's somebody that she wasn't. It sounds like she was even closer than arm's length. I mean, she knew Biden. She's known Biden since she's 25 years old. She cares about Biden, and always felt that he was very kind to her. But she's been very open, honest about the deception of the Democrat Party and just how off the rails that it has gone. And they have a very interesting interview about when she first realized that there were problems and that evolution and what was going on behind the scenes. And it's something a lot of us have waited for because, even, one of the what conspiracy theories was that, oh yeah, Joe Biden's being doped up on. Remember Trump even sort of suggesting that he was mocked for it. What she reveals in the interview is that all the Democrats knew, everyone knew that this was going on, and so what Trump did is Trump just, as they say, said the quiet part out loud. You know, in the little elite bubble, even if you are political opposition, there are certain secrets you're not supposed to share. It's like professional wrestling, and you got the enemies that battle it out, and they will trash talk each other. But then there's certain things that you just don't say publicly, and one of them apparently was what many of us speculated because of the vast difference in performance of Joe Biden from one day to the next, from Sleepy Joe to the big wide-eyed and then aviator glasses and just sort of pumped up, and you're like, what is he on? And what she reveals is that, and she talks about specific instances when it was clear that he was being given something. So that was known as well, while the media covered for it and told us that that was just conspiracy theory talk. It wasn't even worth dignifying, mocking people who dared question it. And it turns out it was true. Anyhow, so I've got some of that audio that I want to share a little bit later on. But let me tell you what I believe we're observing with Elon Musk and his behavior, because I'm going to play audio of him from the Oval Office yesterday. And he's talking very straightforward about the importance of eliminating much of this, and that that what we've been turned into instead of what we're supposed to be is a bureaucracy, where the bureaucracy runs our government. Nobody that's an elected official. No one that you and I can vote out of office. And then implications of the Senate the deficit and so forth. Now, at the same time, this person that is very serious and at the same time doing very serious things, meaningful things that are game changers, if you will, does things like change his handle on X to what did he change? It was something that had to do with, it was playing off the big balls. Harry balls. And so then and this is the audio I failed to grab. It was either MSNBC or CNN, acted as if it was 9/11. I mean, these hushed tones, and like this is just such a low place to be in our country. I mean, meanwhile, you have Democrats holding these news press conferences calling for violence in the streets and shutting down cities and so forth, and that's perfectly fine. But Elon Musk doing that, but he did it in order to do you know why he did that?
Yeah.
He did it just so he was trolling the people on the news to see if they would actually say it. And then he responded to it. He's like, ha, 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 on social media, they actually said it. You look at those two separate Elon Musks, one that is trolling in a manner that some people would see as juvenile, but then on the other hand, doing more meaningful, positive work for the American people than we've probably ever seen any unelected person do in the capacity that he's doing it. And you think these seem like complete contradictions, but I'm telling you what it is. This is a guy who is enjoying his work. This is a guy, and I think Trump is going through this same emotional cycle, if you will, as well. And it's just really, I think they're having a good time. They are having a good time. And it's not a good time because, well, we're just in charge and we're going to do whatever we want to do because we're crazy and now we're the ones in control. But because they're doing things that are meaningful, that are going to have a tremendously positive impact, that the majority of Americans wanted them to do, but everyone has always said there's no point. It's so corrupt. No one can ever fix these problems. And I don't know if you've ever been in this situation, but if you are somebody that, if you've got a job to do, any sort of mission, or if you are a team and you're going to the Super Bowl, when you do really, really well, your mood and your attitude is much, much different. You're having a good time. Sometimes you just get a little bit crazy. And some of this stuff, the trolling that's being done, particularly with Elon Musk, goading the media into doing these stories as they clutch their pearls because he has an inappropriate name that he's using on social media now. This is Elon Musk feeling really, really good right now because of the massive success that just in the few weeks Trump has been president, he has been able to deliver on with these tasks that he's been provided by Donald Trump. I want to play a clip of audio as he was from the Oval Office yesterday with Trump signing this stuff. Added bonus, his kid, 5 years old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid was there at one point kind of like whispering to Trump. Trump and the kid are kind of talking back and forth at each other while Elon is trying to talk to the media. I mean, it's just it's if you hate Trump, you hate it because it shows that these are people that are human beings that are just trying to do a job. This is not something that they're doing because they had these aspirations to be president, to be in the White House. These are people that saw a real problem, got elected by the American people to fix it, and they are doing it successfully. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. If you are looking for a real estate agent who will give you 100%, her name is Emily Johnson from House Theory Realty. This is Doris writing a review, 5 stars. Emily was there for us 7 days a week, made all of the signing effortless. She was referred to us, and we were so pleased with her work ethic, we also referred her to others. Emily deserves the best possible review. You will not be sorry if you give her a call. Another review writing for from helping us buy a lot to build our house in our dream HOA to selling a house that we made so many great memories in. Emily was amazing to work with from start to finish. This was for us a 2+ year process, and Emily made it such an easy process. She knows the market inside and out and guided us through the entire process. That's what you get. If you want somebody that is beyond the traditional realtor, what you think of, somebody that will even surprise you, like, I didn't know realtors did this. Well, they usually don't, but they do with Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. KSGF.com, before we get a traffic update, a reminder of Outlaw Fest. This is the Outlaw Music Festival that will be at Thunder Ridge Nature Arena, Ridgeline, Missouri, Sunday, June 29th. Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan, and a number of other great artists there as well. You can get signed up for your chance to win tickets at KSGF.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see snow, sleet, and freezing rain throughout the day with a high near 33. Tonight, cloudy with a low around 12. For your Thursday, mostly cloudy through mid-morning and then clearing up with a high near 29. And on Friday, partly sunny with a high near 42.
We do have area cancellations at ksgf.com. Is it just schools?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So school cancellations, you can find them there if you have no other means in order to find them. Elon Musk yesterday. Now, it's clear that Elon Musk is just as much at this point of a target as Donald Trump is for the Democrats. And the reason is simple. It's because he's effective. If he were not effective, they would not be targeting him to the degree that he is. And I believe, though it may not necessarily be their direct primary intended purpose, if they are able to inspire someone to try and kill him, it wouldn't bother them. I think they have shifted from utilizing dangerous rhetoric, encouraging violence against Trump, and they've expanded that over to Elon Musk because of the effectiveness of Musk. And the team that has been crafted in order to be effective in exposing all of this corruption, which is why they have targeted some of those individuals as well. The media now, well, they've been this way for some time, but in this given moment, their only interest in covering all of this is demonizing the messenger, the whistleblowers, the people who are in charge of cleaning up the mess. It is to go after them and to demonize them. And to make it sound as if Elon Musk is some sort of crazed lunatic. I was scrolling through social media, and I see somebody I know claim that Elon Musk is now saying Trump should be king of the United States, and all these echo chamber comments about, we just cannot believe this stuff is going on. This is crazy. It's like a cult. And I'm like, what are you people talking about? Here's Elon Musk. Now, this is what we're told is a position of crazed insanity. Musk from the Oval Office, along with Trump yesterday.
So at a high level, you say, what is the goal of Doge and I think a significant part of the presidency is to restore democracy. This may seem like, well, are we in a democracy? Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, okay, we'd have to, if you sorry. So I tell you, gravitas can be difficult sometimes. If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, or if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that is responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy. And if you looked at this, if you looked at the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things have turned out? Well, we have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is not something that people want, and it does not match the will of the people. So it's just something we've got to fix. And then we've also got to address the deficit. So we've got a $2 trillion deficit, and if we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt. I mean, it's really astounding that the interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget, which is shocking because we spend a lot of money on defense. But if that just keeps going, we're essentially going to bankrupt the country. So what I really want to say is, like, it's not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses. It's essential. It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country. And it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
Now, that moment there, Elon Musk, the Oval Office with Trump and his son there in the beginning, you heard a little disruption. That's because his son was acting up just a bit, as 4, 5, 6-year-olds do, however old he is. But what Elon Musk was saying is very straightforward and digestible, and it's common sense. I should have prefaced, because I know some of you, every time you hear the term democracy, your eye twitches a little bit. You're like, we're a republic, we're not a democracy. Now, if I'm going to give him a little forgiveness in that, it's one, because it's for the mass audience. And two, he is talking about the context of elected officials. Yes, we are a republic, but to his point, and this is a huge problem, and one, it is so sad that the media and the Democrat Party has managed to convince Americans it's against their best interest to have people held accountable in government, or people you can hold accountable in government. He's talking about the very fundamentals of who is actually in charge of the country. The irony is, the very people on the Democrat side of the aisle that are pitching a fit, claiming that Elon Musk is this unelected bureaucrat, he is doing more right now because of the directives that Trump has given him. He is doing more now to fight for those same elected officials to actually get some of that power back. Now, many of them don't want it because this is all a big game they get to play. This is the way they spread around money. This is how they keep themselves embedded in the system, while at the same time they can have their hands clean and not have any direct paper trail connection to all of your money secretly being spread around to these different organizations, to these different media outlets, to even these terrorist organizations throughout the world. It's a neat little gig they have set up. You can pay people off for their support, but then there's no direct connection to you. They love this system. It's part of the reason they're panicking. This is how they retain their power. And Elon Musk, in the first half of his explanation here, is that, listen, you cannot have it both ways. We cannot claim that we're going to live in a country and operate as a country in which we have officials that we vote for, that we hold accountable for the decisions that are made, but then have this other branch of government that is actually responsible for running things that we don't even know who they are. I mean, forget about voting them out of office. We have no idea who they are. No clue. And the gaslighting that is occurring, which is clear to most of you, is from anyone who is claiming that this is a danger to democracy. The danger to, quote, in quotes, democracy is already in existence. It has existed for Lord knows how long. That's the poison in the system that Trump is using Elon Musk in order to try to eradicate. The Elon Musk right now, his position, Doge, is the antidote to the anti-democratic system that is in play right now. And I can tell you his assertion that there are many bureaucrats who believe that they are more powerful than elected officials, that's not just an assertion. Right now, the way things are operating, that's the truth. And if you have a conversation with any elected official that is being honest with you, they'll tell you the same thing. There's nothing they can do about it. And the understanding, it's the power dynamic. It's almost similar to, if you've ever seen this portrayed or can imagine it, if you got, the single mom with the kids and she brings a new guy into life and they treat him like crap, and then eventually they're like off. They don't act like it necessarily in front of their mom, but they tell him like, look, we've been through a dozen of our mom's new boyfriends. We've been through a dozen of these people, of new, quote, uncles. You're going to be gone just like the last guy and the guy before him and the guy before him. And we're the ones who ultimately have the power, that power dynamic. And that's how these department heads, that's how these bureaucrats envision themselves. And it's because they have been given that power. So you can imagine for all of the panicked screaming that we're hearing from some of these elected officials, the panicked phone call and text screaming that some of these behind closed doors people are doing or giving to the Elizabeth Warrens and the Chuck Schumers. And I'm sure to people like the Mitch McConnells and the Mitt Romneys, the establishment Republicans, this isn't something that's isolated to the Democrats, though their brilliant approach has been to own this completely. This is such a hilarious misstep that they're making. This isn't something that is just a Democrat problem. This is a problem that is bipartisan, but Democrats are apparently insistent on making you believe that they're the only political party that has interest in protecting this corrupt system. So let them have at it. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Number of different ways that the Democrats and the media are trying to distract from the successes of the Trump administration doing what it was that they were, or doing what it was they were elected to do. And part of that, of course, was to start shining a light on where our money's going, and doing something about it, particularly money that is either wasteful money or money that is being spent in ways that are against our best interest. I was having a conversation yesterday with someone about the trends of talk radio. It was someone in the industry, and how people at some point were just, getting frustrated and like, oh, I don't want to listen any longer. And obviously not everyone falls into that category, but I do believe there's a period of time prior to Trump, particularly this second administration, I'd say over the last 4 years, in which it was felt that nobody can really do anything. Trump wasn't able to do anything long term during his first term. He's just not going to be able to do anything, even if he gets in there. And while there was still hope, I think we just really hit this point in our country where people who loved the country thought that it's too deep. It is too massive. And so what's the point in even knowing? A lot of this was a feeling developed regarding all the investigations over the last 4 years into the massive clear corruption, millions of dollars rolling into the bank accounts of Biden family members for reasons none of them can ever identify or tell you, but it's coming from Russian oligarchs and Ukrainian oligarchs and oligarchs from, I think, Belarus, just all over the place, Russia, China, Ukraine, everywhere. But nothing ever, it's just seemed like, it's okay, well, we know, but nothing's going to happen. So what's the point in even knowing about it? What's the point in having the information if nothing's going to change? And what the second Trump administration is doing is reopening that door of hope, demonstrating that things it's not too late for our country. And that is what we're watching before our very eyes, and that is why we see so much panic, including amongst those in the media. This is Anderson Cooper, and he is on with New Hampshire Republican Governor Chris Sununu. And, of course, it's a discussion about Doge and Elon Musk.
It's 23 days in here, guys. 23 days. You were talking about 2.3 billion that was saved last year. These guys are saving 2.3 billion a day.
Right, but
it's incredible.
That's what they're saying. But where's the proof?
You're waiting. You're not going to be satisfied till he shows up with 10,000 pages.
He's giving very specific things. He's not actually giving any evidence of that.
It's all going to come, because what they also said was, if we have to go to Congress, we'll go to Congress.
Right, but
we'll show where
some of the details that have come out, like the $59 million spent on luxury hotels, it's actually not
talking about the FEMA money that was abused for migrants. FEMA money for migrants. That's okay now?
No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay. Don't put words in my mouth.
So would you stop that? Would you stop that process?
Don't be the portrayal. What I'm saying is the portrayal by him is just not factually accurate.
All right, so he called him the D word, is what Anderson Cooper and all of his professionalism at CNN called the governor of New Hampshire, because he was laying. That's what happens evidently at CNN when you lay out facts. The scrambling that is being done, you hear Anderson Cooper there now taking this position that, well, we don't have proof that what he's saying that he's cutting is actually being cut. Well, which is it? I mean, on one hand, we hear about all these devastating things that are going to occur because of these cuts that are being made regarding this spending. But then now, well, we don't even know, because see, what's happening here is they recognize the American people like this. The American people like, we are going into, we're going to go into bankruptcy as a country. The spending is out of control, so this is good. So then you say, well, we don't know that actually they're cutting any. We don't even know. There's no proof. We're back to this. There's no proof that money actually was being spent on that stuff and being cut. Well, if that's the case, you don't have anything to worry about then, do you? There's some gal. Just some gal. I don't know whether she has one follower or she has 1 million followers. But she went to social media, probably TikTok, or Instagram, one of those. And she compared the way that Democrats are behaving regarding the exposure of all of this corruption when it comes to our tax dollars to a jealous boyfriend. And I thought it is such a perfect analogy.
Democrats are acting like cheating boyfriends right now. I'm sorry, but somebody's got to say it. I'm independent. I think there's good ideas on both sides. There's bad ideas on both sides. But what this Doge audit is reminding me of is like a girl taking her boyfriend's phone and like hiding in the bathroom. And the Democrats are just banging on the door. And they're like, you are invading my privacy. You can't through my phone. And Elon Musk is like, yes, I can. I can see what you've been. They're like, you invaded my privacy. This was your fault. You broke my trust.
I don't know that I've heard a better analogy than that.
Actually, I had that video
perfect?
saved for my show on
I
Saturday.
said she was comparing to a jealous boyfriend, to a cheating boyfriend. And that's true. And Elon Musk is the girlfriend in that scenario. And she goes into the closet and she starts going through the text messages and the emails and his account on Tinder and realizes that he has been, screwing around and cheating on her and treating her like absolute crap. But he tries to turn it around on her. How dare you look in my phone? And he's, screaming and angry and beating on the closet door. She's locked in there. How dare you invade my privacy? Gaslighting her. That is exactly what is happening before our very eyes. And what you see, and you can see it on social media and Democrat activists that only get their media from outlets that have been proven to spread rumors and conspiracy theories and disinformation, is that cheating boyfriend has the group of buddies that is standing right there to tell him, yeah, you're right. She shouldn't invade your privacy. Yeah, who does she think she is? She's the one who's in the wrong here. But again, how many times have we illustrated the relationship between the Democrat Party and the voters is a toxic relationship, just like the cheating boyfriend whose girlfriend finds out that he's cheating because of his text messages, and then he accuses her of doing something wrong by looking at his text messages. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Thank you, Kirk. Heads up on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line out in the Fantastic Caverns area. Almost an inch of snow already and coming down hard as it moves through the area. News in 60 seconds. The Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. Let's see here. All righty. Let's see. Coming. All right. Talking about auditing our government. I look at it like this. When a company has an audit, they don't bring people from the inside to audit themselves. They bring an outside firm to audit the company. That's exactly what Elon Musk is, an outside auditor coming in to audit the United States. Yes, and the people who scream loudest about it are generally the ones who are benefiting from things being in secrecy. There was another really great one here. Let's see. Okay. This isn't the one, but this is another good one. Rand Paul said that without Congress action, that all of Musk's exposure of reckless spending is for naught. Paul is fearful Republicans aren't willing to make necessary legislation to cut purse strings of waste. And I think that is definitely just as close to 100% as an accurate concern as you can get. Here's what I believe is the landscape. As I noted, politically speaking, Democrats have made the boneheaded move of owning this corruption. A type of corruption that Republican establishment members have benefited from as well, and that's all of our money secretly flowing to all of these different people and organizations. And the way that it's, set up broadly is in a way that they, of course, with their influence can direct monies to certain people, certain organizations without their fingerprints being all over it. They don't have to have any direct involvement, so they get the benefit of it without the exposure of the corruption. And for political reasons, because it's something that Trump is cleaning up, Democrats are making it appear as if they solely are responsible for all of this. Not only responsible for it, but they love it and they think that it's virtuous. And how dare you, citizens? Who do you think you are? Demanding to know where your money is being spent? How dare you? That's the position they're taking. Well, what about those Republicans who benefit from this sort of stuff? They're just sitting back quietly letting it all play out. And I believe what they probably are banking on is what Rand Paul has concerns about. And that is once Trump is gone, we could just go back and open that spigot right up again because there's no law created to make that more difficult. No law created that says our tax dollars cannot be spent in such a hidden fashion to such corrupt levels to where the only way that you would be able to legally do it in the future is to change the law. That something that is done by way of executive order can just be undone by way of executive order, or frankly, just ignore it altogether, figuring what is anybody going to do about it in the future? This is a Trump thing, and once Trump is out of the way, then we'll get back to the good old days in which both parties, in terms of the leadership, benefit and use this particular system of corruption. So the question is, and we'll talk, Congressman Burleson is going to join us in the 8 o'clock hour about those concerns, because we know within the Republican Party there is that small yet vocal contingency of Republicans that are on the same page as Trump when it comes to dealing with this and the need to cut the spending that occurs. And just, because here's the other thing to note, and Congressman Burleson told us about this last week or the week before, that there is a version of Doge also in Congress. And so you've got Doge in the executive branch, you've got this Doge approach in Congress, and that is where I imagine you would have the birthing of some meaningful legislation that would make it more difficult, perhaps, to continue on or to go back and negate any sort of progress that we make over the next couple of years regarding this clear problem. Look, we played the audio earlier. Elon Musk was on point here. Yes, we have the problem with the spending. That is a huge problem, because that is about solvency. That is about potential bankruptcy. That is about becoming a failed nation. But it also at the same time is about our system. And you cannot consider yourself to be a country with a government in which we have representation if we, as citizens, have no power to hire or fire or even know who the people are who are spending our money? You can't have that. I mean, you can't have it if you want to call yourself a republic or a representative democracy, when the people that we vote for are like, well, I don't have any, I have no control over how your money is spent because we don't even know how it's being spent. It makes the system one in which largely the vote is symbolic in terms of at least how our tax dollars are used. So it's much more than just the money itself. It's the system that is currently in place. The snow is continuing to come down pretty hard in some areas. I suspect this is the reason for some of the cancellations early on while things appeared to be just fine. There weren't really any reports of inclement weather. And when schools close and it's like that, oftentimes people are like, what are they when I was a kid? But I imagine it's because of what is occurring now that has resulted in those closings, which we have at KSGF.com. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today, it's going to snow. We're going to see sleet and freezing rain throughout the day with a high near 33. Tonight, cloudy with a low around 12. For your Thursday, mostly cloudy in the morning and then clearing up with a high around 29. And on Friday, partly sunny with a high near 42.
Weather updates on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. Snow, sleet mix in West Springfield. From the app, morning Nick and Sarah, already super slick out there. Ask drivers to adjust accordingly. Jared, over an inch in the last half hour here at the plant on Chestnut. So it is clearly coming down. I wanted to play, let's see, what is this here? Okay, I want to play some audio that I found to be pretty interesting. And in fact, we'll get the entire interview posted if you want to listen to it, because it's quite lengthy, an hour and a half, 2 hours long or so. And this is an interview. It's the Sean Ryan Show. I'm not familiar with this show. It seems as if, based off some of the questions, that he is a Democrat or a left-winger. And I say that based off his conversation with the guest about how during the campaign in 2020, he didn't really buy into the Fox News Republican Newsmax perspective that Joe Biden had some sort of mental problems. And so that suggested to me, though I'm stereotyping, that perhaps he's not a right-leaning individual. But what's more important here, and he could very well be, he could be, but that's irrelevant. What is relevant is Lindy Lee. Lindy Lee, former Democrat donor, and this is a donor that would be front row at very, very multi-million-dollar donor events whenever there would be a Democrat like Joe Biden, for example, and it was an event for just 10 donors. She was front and center. She was a big-time coordinator and donor for the DNC. So this is one of the big heavy hitters. But she's also one who has come out and been very transparent about the problems within the Democrat Party. She noted, for example, and I thought this was very interesting, that in the waning days of the campaign, the Democrats, Kamala Harris campaign, for example, was spending a lot of money in Florida. And that made no sense, given that there was no chance. Why on earth? Why would you spend millions and millions and millions of dollars in Florida when you have these swing states that you need to worry about? And lo and behold, the money was they were all Democrat firms. And so what she saw was happening, that hardworking people living paycheck to paycheck were being asked to donate money, also that the powers that be could spread it around to their multi-million-dollar friends. They were basically taking from the poor and giving to the already rich. And as a Democrat, she had a very big problem with that. So she's not new to the scene and talking about this stuff, but now this sit down, she talks about, or at least in some of it, this is the part that I found to be interesting, Biden's cognitive decline. And how it, over time, revealed itself to her. When it was she realized there was a problem, and what she was seeing behind the scenes, what it was that she and other Democrats knew were going on, and some of this, again, very early in the administration. And the things that you and I would observe, and we were called conspiracy theorists and accused of putting edited videos online. The Democrats behind the scenes all along knew that this was going on. So I'm going to play a number of different clips. This one is where she's talking about how she began to see signs, but why it was that she was a bit reluctant to recognize that he had some serious cognitive issues.
Unlike the Democrats, I will take responsibility. In 2019, when the debates were happening, and into 2020, I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. He told me that it was a stutter and a speech impediment. So I was like, okay, all right, maybe it is. Maybe it gets worse with age. I'll extend him grace. And this is a guy who showed me tremendous kindness. I actually met him not through politics. I met him because I was a trustee of the American Association for Cancer Research. I met him in 2016. Okay, so I'd known him when I was 25. And because he showed me kindness then, I believed him. Like I decided to, okay, maybe he just is tripping over his words, but this is a guy who still has control over his mental faculties. So in 2019, 2020, I didn't really think it was an issue. It just didn't really occur to me. And I wasn't watching Fox then. So it wasn't a narrative that I was exposed to.
Now, the timeline of this is somewhat important. Here is somebody that had, as she noted, cared for him because he had always been kind and nice to her, known him since she was 25 years old, and liked him. Plus, she was a Democrat. I mean, to the point, this is what she did. She raised money for Democrats. And back in 2019, she recognized that she was already rationalizing what she was observing as cognitive issues. And she, would talk about how he told her, "Oh, I just have a stutter." And so he knew that there was a problem here. She continued on later in the interview about realizing Biden had a problem.
In May 2019, when he was running for president the first time, I remember talking to her friend and saying, there's more press here than actual attendees. Like, what's going on here? This is in the middle of Philadelphia. It's a hugely Democratic city. The turnout should be much more robust than this. I thought it was just because it was hot that day. Like, Sean, I realize now that I was making so many excuses for him. But when someone is your friend, you really just want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But at some point, you realize that reality is just way too discordant with the narrative that they're presenting. So around 2021, 2022, I was like, okay, this is getting to be a little bit ridiculous.
This is Lindy Liu, longtime Democrat donor, known Biden for a long time, talking on the Sean Ryan Show about that process of realizing that there was a problem here. There was one moment at a fundraiser that really hit her, and you can hear she even becomes emotional, where she is, as usual, because of her influence and connection with Biden, was at an event and sitting in the front row, and she talks about an exchange that she has with him.
He had given a speech, and they usually put me in the front row so he could easily see me afterwards. He, usually would greet me like Lindy. He would remember my name. But one time he said, "Tell your husband I said hi." Sean, I don't have a husband. I just remember,
Wow.
yeah, and he knows that.
We're going to take a break and play some more of this, including, some of what Biden himself would also do behind closed doors. That were these signs that clearly he is not with it, and that the Democrat apparatus was covering for him. Part of the interview as well I thought was interesting, though I don't have the audio of it. She talks about Kamala. No one wanted Kamala. No one wanted, and the hilarity in retrospect of it being known Kamala was not somebody that they ever considered presidential material, and then all of a sudden, in her words, she's Jesus the next day because they tell their voters, this is your new candidate. And she notes that it wasn't that Democrats hated her. They just they didn't think much of her. They didn't see her as a success. They didn't see her as anyone that had any sort of real accomplishment. So it wasn't this hatred for her. She was just irrelevant in the minds of the Democrat and Democrat voters, or donors rather, in terms of her place of significance in the party. More of that Lindy Liu interview coming up on the Sean Ryan Show. It's a podcast show. And like I said, we'll put the entire thing up. I found it interesting because she's very authentic. She's very genuine. She is providing what I think a lot of people that are just interested in what goes on behind the scenes, in what was actually going on behind the scenes. And she comes across as credible here because she's not somebody that is a political operative. She's somebody you can hear even as she relays the story of Biden coming up and asking about her husband. And as long as she'd known him, he knows that she didn't have a husband, and that realization that something was wrong. So that sort of authenticity lends credibility. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Wilder RV, your RV needs. You may not be thinking about getting out there and RVing right yet. You know that we will. I mean, we're almost halfway through February. Then comes March and April, and then we know where we're going to be with the weather. And those first couple of weeks, it's so nice. We almost felt it. We did feel a little bit of it just a week plus ago. And you want to get out there and you start thinking of all the things you're going to do. And some of that may be getting out into nature. If you don't have an RV, check out Wilder RV in Clinton, Missouri. For the price of even less than the price of one night at a hotel, can be a monthly payment towards a brand new RV that accommodates your family. It's much more affordable than you may think that it is. And plus, then you're not paying for a hotel stay. The world is your oyster, whether it's the United States or the 51st state of Canada, wherever it is you want to go. The world is your playground, and Wilder RV, they're just great folks. In fact, people do come from all over the country in order to purchase their RVs. When I was talking with the owner a few weeks ago, and he had mentioned somebody, I think it was Colorado, who had flown in or drove in to pick up the new RV. It was an upgrade for him, and that's because of the level of service, the quality of service, the no pressure, and the variety of different options that are available at Wilder RV. You can find them at wilderrv.com. And Clinton, Missouri, just north of Springfield. KSGF.com for your opportunity to register. Outlaw Music Festival. Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan, and many more are going to be performing Thunder Ridge Nature Arena Sunday, June 29th. Your chance to win tickets for that at ksgf.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see snow, sleet, and freezing rain throughout the day with a high near 33. Tonight cloudy with a low around 12. For your Thursday, mostly cloudy in the morning and then clearing up with a high near 29. And on Friday, partly sunny with a high near 42.
Playing audio from an interview. These are clips of former Democrat donor fundraiser, very high level, Lindy Lee. And she was someone that was high level enough anytime there was maybe an event where it's just 10 of, multi-million-dollar rich, famous celebrity donors. She was there, oftentimes in the front row, because he, knew her and had known her since she was 25 years old. And she was doing this podcast interview with the Sean Ryan Show, talking about how she, back in 2019, realized that something was wrong with him, that he wasn't all there, that she, though rationalized it, he explained it to her that he just had a stutter. And so she noted that, when it's somebody when it's a friend, and you try, you rationalize, you try and tell yourself everything is fine, everything is okay. One event in particular she relayed was in which she was at the front row, and afterwards he came up and said, say hi to your husband for me. And she got a little emotional talking about it, how she didn't have a husband, and Biden he knows that. I mean, these aren't just acquaintances. These are people who knew each other well. And that was when you could tell she really realized something was wrong. Because you can imagine that if it's somebody not just that you see casually, but somebody that you consider yourself, like, you imagine in your mind, somebody that's a friend and you're not married, and they say to you, say hi to your husband, say hi to your wife, that would be very startling. And that was a moment in which she really realized that there were some serious problems there. She also talked about how it was so controlled by his staffers in order to try and, as best as possible, make sure that the American people did not learn about the fact that Biden wasn't really in control of the country or anything for that matter.
I would be at private events and he would have a teleprompter at private events with like 10 people. This is not a major speech. And at private events where everybody wanted him to succeed, it wasn't an aggressive crowd. This is like a crowd of his top donors. Not only that, you would have Jamie Harrison, the DNC chair, pre-selecting questions and telling the rest of us basically to shut up. We weren't allowed to talk. And confiscating our phones. They confiscated my phone. Not only that, somebody, and he knows who he is.
Who is he?
He's Asian. They know who it is. He's no longer there.
We're here to drop names, Lindy.
He's not important enough to drop, He's like the civilian. He was big. If it's an important person, I will, like I did with Jamie. And I'm sure it came down from Jamie. He specifically asked me never to tweet anything about any of these events, never to post any pictures, never to post any Instagram stories. I had posted an Instagram story from a dinner with Biden. He pulled me aside very angrily and told me to take it down. It wasn't even a video, it was a picture. That's how tightly wound the operation got to be.
Lindy Lee also in the interview discusses an example of why it was that the people surrounding Biden did not want anyone to be asking him questions, interacting with him, filming anything at any of these events.
It wasn't even the personal interactions that raised the flag. It's the way that he couldn't answer basic questions that were already pre-screened by the party. And I would just be waiting with bated breath for him to finish the sentence because he couldn't finish it. Like matters of basic American policy and how, for example, he would on our allies at private events. Like he called our ally Japan xenophobic. Japan is a critical ally. Mm-hmm. FYI, like in case you didn't know. This is an American president vilifying our ally just offhandedly because he forgot or whatever that you weren't supposed to do that. These are just like basic things you shouldn't be doing. Like, right? It's just, he just didn't have it together.
Part of looking back when you hear these stories, one, they grab me because, again, this is somebody that is a Democrat donor, has a longtime friend and ally of Joe Biden. And so she's got, there's an authenticity here. I don't think there's any reason to cast doubt upon the claims that she is putting forth here. I always find the behind-the-scenes stuff to be intriguing, the things that we don't see. That's just something that intrigues me, and it always has. But the other thing that really grabs me is in retrospect. She's talking about things from 2019. She's talking about things when Biden was running against Trump. When you and I, normal people, were saying, what's wrong with this guy? There's something wrong with this guy. And it wasn't just into the election, but it was for 4 years. Up until that debate, when they finally could not hide it any longer. 4 years they lied to us. This isn't something that was a tightly held secret only amongst the Biden family and one or two advisors that were so close they were just like family, and they managed to keep it from the rest of the world. This is why, as she notes, they would not even let donors have their cell phones. They would confiscate their cell phones because they knew that he was going to behave in a way that, if observed, would be clear something was wrong with him. And I'm telling you, I was thinking about this interview when I read this AP story. The Associated Press is mad because they refuse to acknowledge that the Gulf of America is now called the Gulf of America. Everybody else is on board because, by the way, this isn't anything new. Presidents change the names of landmarks all the time. This is not something new, but because it's Trump, you have outlets like the AP that are pitching a fit, and so they refuse to comply. And there was some, limited press number of people event that Trump was like, well, they can't come in here then if they're not even going to acknowledge that it's now the Gulf of America. And so the AP, this whole thing about, of course, danger to freedom of the press, and they're standing up for the right to free speech and all of this stuff. And I think about this interview and the fact that the AP, with all of these other outlets, they covered this up for years. They knew this was going on. You do not have this level of interaction with Joe Biden and our very own observations. Again, we saw it. You saw it. I saw it. We were all talking about it for years. And if we had an honest press in this country, a press that wasn't the number one provider of disinformation, the Democrats really, along with the Democrats in the media, they created this problem for themselves because they covered it up until it was too late. They claimed that it was disinformation. They claimed that even from the White House, you may recall, Karine Jean-Pierre telling the media that, these are selectively edited videos just to make it look like he was having issues. This was around the time that he was doing some of those. He was over in Europe, and he was just wandering around. You'd see that he was confused, and you could tell, which we would learn through interviews with some of the other world leaders. They would get assigned to be his visiting angel for that afternoon, to make sure that he was going where he was supposed to, babysit the guy. It is almost appalling that these media outlets still will, just to sit and broadcast information about the Trump administration and accusing Elon Musk or Donald Trump of spreading disinformation. Are you kidding me? You would be hard-pressed to find many, if any, propaganda operations conducted by the media in this country than what we saw specifically when it came to Joe Biden's cognitive abilities. And I'm going to tell you something, and I believe this for some time. After that debate occurred, and we're going to play some audio, Lindy Lee talking about that and what it was that, Democrats were whispering to one another about him being injected or given some, whether it's cocaine or whatever, in order to rev him up. The media knew And Democrats knew for years about the problem. We would, though, see that people in the media and Democrats, after that debate, expressed frustration and anger. Some of them about the position that Joe put them in. Well, Joe Biden was the last person to make a decision about any of this. He's the guy who had the cognitive problems. But they weren't mad because they were duped into believing that he was fine and they didn't know about it. They were mad because they had been told, don't worry, we can do this anyway. Don't worry, we have it handled. Don't worry, we're controlling this, and we're going to make sure that we get him across the finish line. And when that debate occurred and it blew up, and it got out of control to where they could no longer control the narrative about Joe Biden, that's why the media and that's why the Democrat members of Congress and the Senate, that's why they got upset. Because the whole time that they were out there, and we've played the audio clips and, looking back, where they were like, he's just the sharpest guy in the room. I mean, world leaders. It got so bad, SNL did a sketch, an opening sketch, making fun of them because no matter whom you ask in the Democrat Party, they talked about Joe Biden being just the sharpest guy, and world leaders, all eyes are on him because they just can't wait to see what it is he's going to have to say because he's so smart. And Karine Jean-Pierre describing him as, Kamala Harris, both of them, but describing him as able to navigate these delicate and intricate issues in ways that nobody else is able to. And you had all of these Democrats going out there, and they were repeating the lie. They were repeating it not because they believed it, but because they had been convinced that his handlers were going to be able to push him across the finish line and prevent the narrative from being lost. And it didn't happen. That debate, he blew all of that up. And that's why they were mad at them, because they failed in that. It wasn't because they were tricked into believing he was fine. They were tricked into believing that his people were going to be able to trick everyone into believing that. A couple more bits of audio from Lindy Lee as she talks about, as a Democrat fundraiser and donor lifelong, the behind the scenes and her evolution of recognizing the big lie, if you will, about Joe Biden and who is actually running the country. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Sometimes this weather calls for an ice cold beer. That sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? If you like beer, you know what I'm talking about. Bradford Light, ABV 3.8%, crafted precision and care, crisp, refreshing taste, satisfies without overwhelming. Brought to you by your friends at Show Me Beverage, as is Pineapple Life Coach, both offerings from Kansas Territory Brewing Company and available at Macadoodles and Price Cutters. The Pineapple Life Coach, you want something a little more tropical, a little more exotic, perhaps, as you get your mindset in the way. You imagine having a pineapple whip in one hand and a pineapple life coach in the other. Oh, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Something for you to keep in mind as you swing by. Macadoodle's price cutters in the area, be it Pineapple Life Coach or Bradford Light from Kansas Territory Brewing Company. All right, a couple more bits of audio from Lindy Lee, who is longtime Democrat donor, fundraiser, and longtime friend since she was 25 of Joe Biden. And she sat down for an extended interview on the Sean Ryan Show about Biden's cognitive ability and the disinformation campaigns that were launched by the Democrats, his handlers, and the media, falsely claiming that he was perfectly fine all of that time. And so one of the speculative conversations that was going on in the public was whether or not Joe Biden was being doped up. This was something that the only time the media would ever reference it was if they were trying to insult somebody who was making the claim. And Donald Trump was one of those individuals. Donald Trump, I know at one point at least, there may have been others made this sort of comment like, well, I don't know, but I've heard people are saying that, he may have, in fact, I think, didn't he call for a drug test before the debate?
Yes, he
at one
did.
point? Yeah, to this point, make comments about whether or not he was going to be doped up. And the only time the media would even mention it is to insult Donald Trump. And observers had very good reason to believe this. Wearing sunglasses inside, sometimes his eyes were wide open, sometimes they were and then his personality itself. And so that is something that Lindy Lee addressed during the interview.
There's a lot of people that think that he was basically doped up before he would get on TV or get on and give a speech or whatever. Is there any truth to that?
I only want to tell you things that I've seen with my own eyes. I do know that he likely took something before the State of the Union.
I was wondering because I was there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was there for that. And he seemed sharp at the beginning and then
yeah,
kind of went downhill there towards the end.
Like clockwork, all the Democrats are praising him to the high heavens for simply reading off the teleprompter. That's not a high bar to jump over, okay?
Yeah.
Anyone who has a rudimentary understanding of English can read off a screen.
Yeah.
It didn't require any impromptu thinking on his part.
So any rumors you were in there. Were there any rumors of him getting doped up, Adderall?
Oh, there were plenty of rumors, but Sean, I'm here to give you the facts. Like everything I've said to you so far has been like proven, or I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've never seen him get doped up, but there were plenty of rumors that he would get doped up before every major event. Like, for example, after the debate, he went to North Carolina. It was basically, it was a life or death moment for his campaign. He had to prove that he was still ready to continue his race. The rumor was that he took something. The night after the debate, he basically self-destructed before the eyes of the whole world. So the next day, he had to prove that he could still keep going. And that's what we were told, that he got some sort of injection or whatever before he went on stage in North Carolina. But I wasn't there to see that, and I don't want to, I can't say for sure. But
so even within the Democratic crowd, they knew something was going on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because it was night and day. His energy level, he would be like Pee Wee Herman in one moment and then just be like Mahatma Gandhi the next. Like it would just be night and day. His energy level, the delta between the two was just really significant. It just, for example, the previous night, he was like, we finally beat Medicare. And the next day, he was like hollering on stage. It's like two different people.
Wow.
And we all observed it, and we all knew it. I remember joking about that the next day after that, when he was in North or South Carolina, whichever she referenced, and like, well, where is this Joe Biden coming from? A number of you have noted as she describes the fact that Joe Biden really wasn't running anything, that he wasn't making decisions. The fact that right now, the Democrats who defended Joe Biden and covered for him all that time are screaming about Elon Musk is really the one running things, not Donald Trump. And so this is insane. This is probably illegal. She even references the irony of Democrats complaining about that, given how they covered for Biden.
It's so ironic that people are now blasting Elon for not being elected. But you know who else wasn't elected? The senior advisors who were running our country for the past 4 years while our president was just not present.
But of course, that was okay, because if you're a Democrat, you can do whatever you want, because you are part of what they are continuing to strive towards, and that is a one-party rule system. And when you have one-party rule, you have no option but just to do things the way that they want. Refreshing. We'll get that. Do we have that interview up, the full?
Yes,
Yep.
KSGF.com in the must-read headlines.
So was it 2 hours, about an hour and a half, somewhere around?
Yeah,
It's quite.
yeah,
It's
almost
very
2 hours.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I thought, again, if you like that behind-the-scenes stuff, and again, here's somebody that is authentically presenting what it is as someone who knew Joe Biden since the age of 25 and helped raise money for him. Her experience of recognizing the lies and the cover-ups and the disinformation campaigns that were being run in order to just get him across the line. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Another part of that interview with Lindy Lee, longtime Democrat fundraiser, donor, ally of Joe Biden, that I didn't grab the audio of, is she had noted that none of, and this is what she did, this was her get these big time, multi-million-dollar dark money donors, and none of them wanted a second Joe Biden term. None of them did. There was no one who really truly believed, as massive Democrat donors. When the host, though, asked, well, then why? And she said that the Democrats had done a lot of polling, and just because of his name recognition, he was the one that was showing was going to win. They polled Pete Buttigieg, they pulled all these others, and he was the one. And so they felt like they had no choice until that blow up, and then Kamala Harris. And as she noted, nobody really hated Kamala. They were just indifferent to her because she was never really successful at anything. And so she was a no-brainer as not being the nominee, but they just felt as if they had been backed into a corner at that point. Interesting interview. News in 60 seconds. Congressman Burleson in the next hour as well. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 1041. I am Nick Reed. Welcome to the show. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line is 447 KSGF. Chuck Schumer on Monday announced that he had launched a tip line for woke government employees to rat out Trump officials with accusations of corruption. So he said, "Today I'm calling on our brave public servants. I'm launching a new portal for anyone who wants to expose corruption, abuses of power, and threats to public safety with the legal protections of being a whistleblower." And, of course, it was filled with people noting the corruption of the Biden administration, the corruption of the Department of Justice under the Biden administration, the corruption of Chuck Schumer, calling for a whirlwind and paying the price of Supreme Court justices or by Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade. Something similar to this happened, but it was in a more impactful way. I believe it was Ireland last year had passed legislation that it was essentially a tattletale line in which I think if people use politically incorrect language or something, and it had a similar fallout. It may have even been Canada, and it was normal people that were flooding the tip line, noting the corruption or the racism within DEI, and so of course it blows up in their face because they are attempting to create some sort of groundswell of accusations, in this case by Chuck Schumer of corruption in government by the people who are shining a light on the corruption. And, of course, it backfires on them. I notice also many of you have noted that increasingly we are seeing the changeover of the Gulf of Mexico labeled as Gulf of America. Google Maps is doing this. To me, it makes sense because North America, the North Americas, you're talking about, that's what the water borders, be it Mexico, be it any of the southern states in the United States of America. It's more accurate, particularly given that a majority of the coastline is U.S. coastline. It's not even Mexico. So arguably, one could say it should be the Gulf of the United States of America, but I think a good balance and a much more accurate label, of course, is the Gulf of America. At the same time, people on the left who have Trump derangement syndrome, this is yet another battle that they want to die on. The Associated Press is refusing to do this. They are absolutely going to refuse to do it. We just won't do it. And we have another situation in which, hysterically, people are acting like this is some unheard of thing, changing the names of something. Folks, this is done all the time. This is nothing new. We went through a period of time in which we had the left tearing down monuments of past world leaders, taking the names off of schools of our founding fathers. We went through this whole thing where we had to change the names of everything that referenced our history. Mountains have been, one of the changes is Mount Denali going back to McKinley because it was changed from McKinley to Denali by Joe Biden. And it's not only a national level thing. Out in Colorado, they had a Mount Evans, and a few years ago, it was named after Governor Evans from the 1800s, and evidently he just, didn't treat Native Americans real nice, and so they decided to change the name away from that, in order to reflect, kindness and political correction and so forth. That Columbus Day, you have cities across the country that will officially change it to Indigenous People Day, ironically, because we are supposed to not celebrate someone who is cruel to other humans, apparently not having any clue about the history of indigenous people and how they treated one another. indigenous people, the tribes, by the way, were more responsible for the complete eradication of other tribes than the white man ever was. The same people on the left who celebrate the changing of names, oftentimes on the whims of whatever the particular virtue signaling movement is of the day, all of a sudden are declaring that Donald Trump is a dictator because he changed it from the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Once again, do you people not realize how you are putting yourself on full display of either not having a clue what you're screaming about?
Said is what he should have said. Well, the Gulf, it just simply now identifies as the Gulf of America.
Yeah, it self-identifies, as the Gulf of America. Well, like I said, you can't even you can't say, well, I don't have a problem with the name being changed. It's just to what it was changed to, because that actual Gulf of America is more in line with the reality of what it is. Mexico is part of the Americas. America, United States of America, part of the Americas. So it actually is more accurate being called. So the content or the concept behind it, the idea behind it, you can't logically have a real problem with that. And you can't have a problem with the fact that Trump did it because it's done all the time. I mean, you can't. I know this is what we deal with, people on the left that are irrational. It's Trump derangement syndrome. If only, with all of the close ties that government people, including people like Bernie Sanders on the left, have with the pharmaceutical companies, you'd think they could come up with some sort of vaccine or pill in order to, at the very least, lower the symptoms of Trump derangement syndrome. Springfield's Talk 1041. Congressman Burleson, we'll chat with him coming up here in just a couple of moments. Right now, latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see snow, sleet, and freezing rain throughout the day with a high near 33. Tonight, cloudy skies with a low around 12. For your Thursday, mostly cloudy through mid-morning and then clearing up with a high around 29. And for your Friday, partly sunny with a high near 42.
Congressman Burleson joins us. It's good to have you. Good to talk with you, sir. I'd like to, out of the gate here, talk a little bit about the, Doge. I think since we last spoke with you, of course, the left has just been going apoplectic over this. It's gotten to the point now where the media is now starting to claim that there's no evidence that actually there is wasteful spending. There's no evidence that this money's actually being saved. We've gone back to the no evidence thing. And they keep hopscotching around here, of course. We were treated to this was being done in the secret of the night by unelected people, which we're like, well, no. I mean, they're the ones revealing what's going on, and it's unelected people who have been spending this money. So they're clearly on the wrong side of what Americans want Trump to do. 70% of Americans polling saying they're pleased with the fact that Trump is doing what he said he was going to do. But at the same time, and someone had texted in that Rand Paul had noted, if Congress doesn't pass some laws that locks in this sort of approach, then it's easily probably just going to go back to the way that it was once Donald Trump is no longer in office. So your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah. Hey, good morning. You're right, and I'm to be into the Doge committee hearing today. I'm one of the few members that's on the Doge subcommittee, and so that will be exciting. That should be like I've heard from every press, every reporter. They're all going to be there. They know that this is going to be fireworks. And the question is why? I mean, for me, it's like why is this controversial?
Right.
It's not controversial. It's not partisan to want to look for waste. I'm gonna when I give my speech, I'm going to show some sound clips of Bill Clinton, Al Gore, Barack Obama, all championing different efforts that they created when they were president. I mean, not Gore, but these guys when they had created to find waste, fraud, and abuse, right? And so, what happened to the Democratic Party? What caused you to lose your mind over finding waste, fraud, and abuse? You're going to fight us tooth and nail for money that's going to what? Like money to 1.5 million that went to advanced diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia, right? And then you had $70,000 that went to a DEI musical in Ireland. 2.5 million that went to electric vehicles in Vietnam. $50,000 went to transgender opera in Colombia. $2 million for sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala. $6 million to fund, tourism in Egypt. All of this is like, which one of these do you want to defend?
Well,
right?
and outside of the fact that this is not how it is, our tax dollars should be used. How much of it is actually just lining the pockets of people? You know what I mean? Like, so you have millions for sex change operations in Colombia or whatever, and whatever it may be, or some LGBT opera in some other country. Even if, I mean, there's a very good chance that while some of it may go to that, it's going to people. It's going in lining pockets. None of it's good, but it's just all so corrupt. And to your point, it is amazing to me that Democrats are wanting to own this corruption. Like they are owning this. They are making it partisan. I believe, and you may agree with this, that establishment Republicans also over time have had a hand to some degree in this type of doing things. But because it's Donald Trump, Democrats have made the decision to signal and announce to the American public that no, they own this corruption. This is us. And hey, if they want to own it, knock yourselves out. But who on earth wants to defend this or can?
No, you can't defend it. You really cannot. And that's what the fight is going to be today. What's going to happen today. I think that they can't win on this arguing about this waste. So what they're going to do is they're gonna throw temper tantrums every time they get 5 minutes, and their temper tantrums are going to be saying Elon Musk, right?
Yeah.
Unelected person, right? And so just to give people some context, this is not unusual. Every president has the authority to hire special employees. The president created the Department of Doge, and he literally, so through an executive order, he changed the name of an agency that Barack Obama had created to find waste, fraud, and abuse digitally. That's all. I mean, so it is a fully legitimate program, and they're losing their mind over it. So, and yeah, no, people didn't vote. I mean, his name was not on the ballot, but everybody knew when he announced in August that he was going to create a Department of Government Efficiency, and then by November, the American people voted for Trump, knowing that Elon was part of the deal.
Well, and aside from the fact that the people who sign off on this stuff, on all of this spending, they're not elected. The 4 members of, I think it was at the whatever division of the government that funneled $59 million to luxury hotel rooms for illegals. Not those 4 people that got fired. They weren't elected. I mean, so okay. So what we have here is a lot of unnamed people, unelected, spending our money versus a guy who, is unelected, but he's showing us where it's going. Now, you tell me which one's on the side of the American people.
Yeah, I will be making that point. That's a great point. I'll be making that point in this hearing today. That's a good one.
The upside of all of this is that what is occurring, as much screaming and that they're doing and the temper tantrums they're throwing, Americans are on the side of this common sense stuff. And I thought Elon Musk did a fantastic job of yesterday from the Oval Office talking about 2 things. One, the financial problematic component to this and the potential of bankruptcy, but also you cannot have a democratic form of government in any form if bureaucrats are the ones running things. You cannot have people that are unelected spending our money that comes from our tax dollars, but then, pretend as if the American people have some democratic process that elects people that are held accountable to us. Those 2 things cannot work side by side.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And look, we own this. Like, this is the last chance that we have. I really do believe that. Like, this is a very unique moment in time and history in the United States. I think this is it. We're careening towards the cliff here.
Yeah. Financially.
I read a report by Epic, which is not a partisan group. And they said 15 years we will enter a death spiral that basically you cannot print enough money to pay off the interest. And so we're done in 15 years, period. So we've got to change course. We've got to at least buy some more time. I mean, that's what Freedom Caucus is doing. We're fighting tooth and nail to try to make sure that these reconciliation bills cut spending as much as possible, because that will give us more than 15 years of time. And what we're doing is we're not even our proposal is not even balancing the budget, which is pathetic, honestly. But we're trying to get there, and we're trying to cut spending and at least get halfway there. Our conference is fighting us tooth and nail. They're absolutely fighting us over this, and we need help from the American people. I was in some interviews yesterday. I said, we're not going to do this without tremendous pressure from the public. They're going to have to demand that we do the right thing and cut spending. Otherwise, this town is not going to do it.
Well, people within the 7th Congressional, obviously, I think they have a pretty good sense of what you're. I mean, you're not just on the right side here, but you're leading it. And I did want to ask you. We're talking with Congressman Burleson. Uh, so, well, I guess you answered it. I mean, that's what it's going to boil down to. And do you think that Trump recognizes that this will be a temporary fix if Republicans in Congress don't do something, make it more permanent, that as meaningful as the step that is being taken right now and the efforts that are underway, that if there isn't some real meaningful shift on the congressional end of things here, that really you're going to have the Republican caucus working against what it is that Trump is doing. And do you think that they have a sense of that? And because to me, they're doing a great job of publicly presenting the case and the argument, but because Democrats are owning this as their corruption, it's easy for Republican voters to not recognize that the problem also is the Republican caucus and the leadership there. And I think that it would be meaningful if Trump or Musk at some point make sure that Americans know it. Because like you and I can talk about, you have to let your Republican member of Congress know that Congress needs to do what Elon Musk is doing, what Donald Trump is doing. And I think that the way to get that message out is through the White House. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that Trump, he is Elon and Trump are the the variable here. And if we can get them on board with spending cuts, so for example, when it comes to reconciliation, you can only do mandatory spending cuts, and that includes Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Trump has taken off the tables Social Security and Medicare, and his team at some point in these negotiations, we were planning to cut Medicaid, and and there's a lot of things that we can do to cut Medicaid that do not impact people that truly need Medicaid. So there's things like block granting Medicaid to the states, and then just putting on a per capita basis. There's things like requiring people to certify or re-verify that they qualify on a regular basis. Things like that that we could do that would save hundreds of billions of dollars. But because there was a whisper from not Trump, but from somebody from his team that Trump did, he probably wouldn't like Medicaid cuts, then suddenly that sent all of Congress into a spiral. Right. Like, oh my God, if we can't cut Medicaid, how are we going to get to because you have to get to the cuts necessary.
Right. Yeah. The waste
for to pay for the tax cuts, right, and the reconciliation. So when Trump wants to cut taxes to the tune of $4.5 trillion over a 10-year period, where are you going to get that money? You got to cut spending if you're going to reconcile. And so it sent Congress in this, tizzy, and it's all based on nothing, right? So
it's fair.
That's to make the point that Trump has so much influence right now. It's unbelievable. I don't know that there's ever been a moment where a president has had this much influence. And the fact that he is tweeting things like balanced budget, and he said he ran on cutting spending. That's a really good indicator. I just when things get really hairy, I hope that he's on the side of cutting spending as well.
Congressman Burleson, anything else that's off the radar? Oh, I wanted to ask you, I saw that a committee that deals with a lot of, quote, secret stuff that, and I think Congresswoman Luna from Florida made some comments that committee was going to be or there was going to be some developments with that. Is that something you're associated with?
Yeah, there's a brand new task force that's being created for disclosure.
That's it.
And I'm really excited to be on that task force.
So
it's going to be a small team of people.
What will it do?
So the JFK files is the first project. We will be working with the White House, and we will be read in and given the security clearance to read the files, and then work with the team to determine what basically the disclosure of those files. Then we'll go to the Martin Luther King Jr. documents, and we'll go through the RFK, and then we're going to go into the Epstein list, and then we'll do, I think, 9/11, and then we're going to do UFOs will be part of this. So it's going to be pretty fascinating.
Yeah,
task
I
force
should
to
guess
get rid
so.
of.
Anything else at all?
No, sir.
Okay.
No.
Well,
I hear it's snowing there. It's snowing here.
Yeah, it dropped pretty fast, and I think we got an inch or so. Is that what you think, Sarah?
Yeah,
over
I
there?
think so. It looked like it stopped.
Yeah, so we did get some, and so I guess you got some there in D.C. as well, or getting some.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
pretty nasty up
as,
here.
As always, it's greatly appreciated your time, and we look forward to talking to you Monday or sometime next week, usually Monday.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks,
Thanks.
sir. Congressman Burleson, everyone. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see snow, sleet, and freezing rain throughout the day with a high near 33. Tonight, cloudy skies with a low around 12. For your Thursday, mostly cloudy through mid-morning and then clearing up with a high near 29. And on Friday, partly sunny skies with a high near 42.
I wanted to play audio that is a demonstration of a political party, that being the Democrat Party, that has no interest whatsoever in actually coming up with any plan to fix any problems. It isn't uncommon when the party not in power attacks the party that is in power. Now, for them to attack things that are wildly popular with the American people, that isn't quite as common, but that's the approach right now that the Democrats are taking. But usually, they will offer at some point up something to say, this is why we need to be back in power. This is the sort of thing that we can offer. But the Democrats at this point, they just are completely void of that. They are campaigning for the upcoming midterm elections already on Donald Trump is awful, he's a dictator, but he's a dictator that wants to hand all his power over to a different dictator, which is really weird dictator behavior, but nonetheless, Donald Trump is a little different, so I guess as a dictator, it would stand to reason that he is a bit different than other dictators. There was a House Judiciary Subcommittee on the Administrative State Regulatory Reform and Antitrust held yesterday, titled Reining in the Administrative State Regulatory and Administrative Law Reform. And they were allowing for citizens to come forth and talk about, among other things, what it's like to be an American under the thumb of the administrative state. This is supposed to be one of those things that's for the American people to inform members of Congress. Here is what we go through because of government. One of the individuals that's a business owner was given the opportunity to speak, and she is also a legal immigrant from somewhere in Africa. Prior to her time to speak, Democrat Representative Jamie Raskin spent the time during his moment explaining how they really needed to focus on Elon Musk. Nothing whatsoever to do with helping the American people or small business owners, particularly when it comes to the administrative state, but we need to focus on Elon Musk. And after the opening few seconds of this legal immigrant business owner's remarks, she addressed Raskin.
And I have been doing business, obviously, both in Africa as in the U.S., in the states of California, Texas, and New York. Mr. Raskin, your words earlier really worried me, and I will tell you why. When you say we are here, and we should be here to talk about Mr. Elon Musk and all the unconstitutional things that he's doing, and you said we shouldn't be here to talk about regulation or anything like that, first of all, I want to say, then why did you have me here? As an entrepreneur, my time is valuable. I came here because I thought we were going to talk about the regulatory state and why it matters. So you need to make up your mind on that. And I'm deeply offended by what you said there. And furthermore, I would tell you why I came when I was invited to speak on this. Because right now, everybody in this country, these issues of regulation, overregulation, has been made into a matter of partisanship. Are you from the left or are you from the right? I don't care. Because where I come from, the overregulation caused us to be where we are. My continent, Africa, is the poorest region in the world today because it happens to be the most overregulated region in the world. So if you don't see the value of overregulation, if you need and want to wait until this country becomes like most African countries, I don't know. I love this country and I don't want to see it go down there.
I imagine her question was somewhat rhetorical, in which she said, if all you are wanting to use this time for is to attack Elon Musk, why am I here? She noted, I'm an entrepreneur. My time is valuable. But here's a news flash. It isn't to Jamie Raskin. I would argue, just based off the most recent behavior and the approach that the Democrats are taking as a party, there isn't a single elected Democrat on that committee that cares about you or your time. And there may be some Republicans that don't as well. They don't care. Not to kick a theme to death, but it's another example of Democrats only care about people or issues if they can use it for their own political purposes, usually as a weapon against political opposition. So, they'll run around all the time, talking about the importance of immigrants. The importance of immigrants, the importance of immigrants. Oh, the importance of small business owners. Well, here is an immigrant from Senegal, small business owner that took time out of her life that is valuable and spent, I'm sure, her dollars to fly to Washington, D.C., only to have Democrats want to talk about Elon Musk. Because they don't care about you. And let's be honest, this isn't something, although Democrats determined to make this an issue that they own, not caring about the American people. The gift that they keep politically handing Republicans is pretty breathtaking. This isn't, as she noted, this isn't left or right. This isn't, a partisan issue, at least to the American people. It's one in which businesses in this country are given a hard time that their biggest obstacle, oftentimes, more often than not, isn't competition. It's not the changing marketplace. It's government. And let's be honest, it's not like that has really changed a tremendous amount, regardless of who the president was, Republican or Democrat, other than Trump. And that has been noted, and it's reflected in the investment that's already been committed to the United States under a second term, that Trump really did do a lot of regulatory reform in areas that for some industries were tremendously helpful. And then, of course, the tax cuts. So all of that did help. But it's not as if, Republicans are in charge, so we're going to see these massive rollbacks in onerous regulations. And so here you have an immigrant from Senegal trying to fulfill the American dream, and she has to take her time to go to the nation's capital in order to explain how it is that the people out of the nation's capital craft these, over time, these divisions of government that are run by unelected people, have all these Doge dollars flowing through them, and these are all huge obstacles to her. And what do Democrats want to talk about? Elon Musk. It is a vile and disgusting shame. It is rare that people in government really, truly understand and appreciate how much more difficult they make it for American business owners just to have a business. And I'm not even talking just on the federal level. Again, Springfield. I saw there was another restaurant that was posting that they were hoping that they were going to be open today. And, of course, in the comments, people are like, well, if it's in the city of Springfield, we know what the holdup is. I mean, it's virtually every local small business owner trying to open in the city of Springfield is just a struggle. And it's not with every division. There's one in particular that you talk with people trying to open businesses, and they'll tell you whom it is and what division it is. But they don't want, this is the other problem we have, and again, not just D.C., but in Springfield, they don't want to make a fuss about it because they recognize that these people have the ability to just not let them open. And, this is where the Chamber of Commerce should be the big champion, should be putting on the local level, or if it's the Missouri Chamber of Commerce on a state level or the national, they should be leading the fight on this sort of stuff. But instead, small business owners in particular are left to just simply struggle desperately, spending a majority of their time focusing on how to please the government so that the government allows me to function as a business owner. Every time you see in any municipality, any county, city, state, and well, we're going to commission a study to figure out what it is that we can do to draw businesses to the area. Here's an idea. Why don't you talk to some small business owners? They'll be more than happy to tell you the obstacles and difficulties that are created that keep people away from a particular area. You notice they never want to talk to them. They'd much rather spend 6 figures of your tax dollars to pay some outside firm to come and tell them instead of listening to you. Because all you do is whine about, when are you going to come approve my permits? Whiny business owners. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you, the Pyramid Roofing Company. This is the type of weather that will show if your roof is up to par. And if you've noticed any wear and tear signs, don't fret. I want to recommend Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, the Pyramid team, they know that out of all of the home repairs that can happen, a roof repair or replacement isn't the funnest to do. So they try to make that process as simple as possible. And that's why they offer free, very thorough roof inspections. And they also work through that insurance process without making you sign anything, which not all roofing companies do that, by the way. And I'll also mention that they're not going to do some long sales pitch on why you need to hire them or you're going to die. Some companies are like that, but the Pyramid team, they're not like that. I appreciate that, and I'm sure you will too. So if it is time to schedule an appointment with the Pyramid Roofing Company, give Josh a call today. You can find all of that contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
I had that happen once. They were like, if you don't fix that in your roof, you will die. That's what they told me. But they were like, you will die. We will make sure of it.
I had a company come out one time where I had a pitch for over 2 hours, and he told me that whenever me and the husband die, that our child will not have to worry because this item is still going to be in pretty good shape. So I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah.
We didn't hire them.
Overselling just a little bit here. Here's a headline. Trump halts electric vehicle charger funding. South Carolina turns to private backing. Well, that's a novel idea. Have the private industry do it? Wow. What a crazy notion. Particularly if it's something that we're told is the wave of the future, that this is the sort of technology that is going to stimulate the economy. If so, then, hey, private sector do it. This was a similar approach whenever Trump pulled us out of the ridiculous so-called Paris Climate Agreement, and Michael Bloomberg was like, well, then I'm going to step up and pay for it. Good. That is a fantastic solution, something that I'm sure the left would be more than happy to agree with, have corporations actually pay for it instead of average working Americans, have billionaires actually pay for it. You know, every time Trump decides average hardworking Americans should not be on the hook for this, and then a corporation or a billionaire steps up and says, we'll pay for it, the left should be ecstatic by that. They should be celebrating. Trump has figured out a way to make sure that the people who need to, quote, pay their fair share are the ones paying for this stuff, as opposed to me and you paying for it. Oh, of course, we can't have that, though. I would be praising Donald Trump. There's a piece, and this is Fox News, reflecting on what Congressman Burleson was telling us earlier. House Dem expects first Doge subcommittee meeting to be full-on combat. And what you have here is a division in which Republicans are going to talk about all the wasteful spending. And Democrats are going to talk about Elon Musk. They're going to pretend as if somebody in government that isn't an elected official doing work is somehow illegal. They will not talk one bit about how it is that you are getting screwed over when it comes to the hidden use, all of these years, of your taxpayer dollars. They'll have no concern of that. And what I'd like to see Republicans do is challenge Democrats to just find anything at all that they could identify as wasteful spending. Anything. Because I suspect all of the years of Democrats talking about how, oh, yes, we're against wasteful spending, we're against fraud, what we're seeing here is, no, they actually aren't. And in fact, the moment that somebody comes along that really, truly, legitimately is looking to remedy the problem, the Democrats are the ones that are standing up, screaming and doing everything they can to stop it from occurring. So it was just days ago, Hamas indicated that they were potentially going to violate the ceasefire agreement by delaying the release of hostages. Trump, in turn, said, well, if I were Israel and they do that, then it would be off and all hell to pay. Now, that was falsely described by the media as Trump somehow breaking the agreement, when it's Hamas that has suggested that they would, and this was just a recommendation on how he would respond if he were Israel. The Israeli cabinet has announced that they back Trump's demand for Hamas to release all the hostages as the agreement read by Saturday's deadline. And so that is it. Look, leadership demands a timeline. And unless you have that, you're not going to get any movement forward. Glenn Beck's next. I'm Nick Reed.